Financial literacy isn't taught in school, but that's where I come in. Because you can graduate with top grades, get a job, work hard your entire life, and still end up financially struggling simply because no one ever explained how money actually works. Compound interest, inflation, assets versus liabilities, good debt versus bad debt, emergency funds. These aren't advanced concepts, they're basics. And every single adult will deal with them, whether you understand them or not. My name is S. I work as a consultant in the finance industry. Grab a coffee, grab a notepad, and let me break down the 5 financial concepts you absolutely need to master. And if you find this valuable, hit subscribe. I share content like this every week. So, the first concept is compound interest. Compound interest is the most powerful wealth building tool that you have access to. And most people don't understand how it works. Here's the simple version. Compound interest means you earn interest not just on your original money, but on the interest that your money has already earned. So let me give you an example so you can actually visualize it. You invest £1,000 at 7% annual return. After year one, you have £1,070, right? That's £70 in interest. But in year two, you're not earning 7% on the 1,000, you're earning 7% on the £1,070. So now you gain £74.90 in the second year. Year three, you're earning on £1,144.90 and so on. The longer your money compounds, the faster it grows. This is what's called exponential growth. If you invest £100 a month starting at 20 and average 7% annual returns, by the time you're 60, you'll roughly have £264,000. And if you wait until you're 30 to start with the same 100 a month and 7% return, you will have around £120,000. Same monthly contribution, but starting 10 years earlier nearly doubles your outcome. That's compound interest. And here's the key: compound interest works for you when you invest, but it can also work against you when you're in debt. So, credit card debt at 20% APR, that's compounding against you every month you don't pay it off. So the lesson is simple. Start investing as early as possible and avoid high interest debt like the plague. Otherwise, it will just start snowballing into bigger debt. Compound interest is either your greatest ally or your worst enemy. So just choose wisely. The second concept is inflation. Because inflation is the reason your money loses value over time. Most people know that prices go up. What they don't realize is that when prices go up, the purchasing power of your money goes down. Here's what that means. Let's say you have £10,000 sitting in your savings account earning 1% interest. Sounds safe, right? But if the inflation is running at around 3%, you're actually losing 2% of your purchasing power every single year. Let me give you an example for you to visualize. Today, you can buy something for £10,000. Let's say a car. You can afford it. But in 10 years, that same car might cost £13,000 due to inflation. Your 10,000 is still in the bank, so it's still £10,000. But you can no longer afford that same car. Your money now only buys what 7,700 would have bought back then. You didn't spend it, you didn't lose it, but inflation eroded its value. This is why keeping all your money in cash or low interest savings accounts is a losing strategy in the long term. Now, I'm not saying you don't need to have cash. You do need to have an emergency fund. You need to have some sort of liquidity to cover any unexpected costs. But your long term wealth, your investments, you need it to grow faster than inflation. That's why investing matters, because historically the stock market has returned around 7 to 10% annually over the long term. And that beats inflation nearly every time. Whereas cash savings at 1, 2%, 3% don't. And here's how you can beat inflation: invest in an asset that grows, index funds, stocks, property, invest in yourself, skills that increase your income, and build things that appreciate, not depreciate. So here's the lesson: inflation is a hidden tax on your money, it's the silent thief. If your money isn't growing faster than inflation, you're actually getting poorer every year, even if your bank balance looks the same. So don't let inflation steal your future purchasing power. The third concept is assets versus liabilities. And this one is very simple, but most people get it backwards. In simple terms, an asset puts money in your pocket and a liability takes money out of your pocket. That's it. That's the difference. So now let's apply it. Your car, most people think it's an asset, but it's not. It's a liability. You have to pay the insurance, the fuel, the maintenance, and it depreciates straight away after you buy it. It takes money out of your pocket every month. It is not an asset. Your house, if you live in it, it's a liability. Why? Because you have to pay the mortgage, property taxes, maintenance, utilities. Yes, it might appreciate in value, but while you're living in it, it's taking money out. So it will only become an asset once you actually realize the gain and sell the house. However, if you buy a house, if you rent it out and that rental income exceeds your costs, now that is an asset because it's putting money in your pocket. Stocks, bonds, index funds, they're all assets. They generate returns, dividends, and grow. Designer clothes, the latest tech, expensive furniture, the liabilities. They lose value the moment you buy them, and they cost you money to own. So here's why this matters. Most people work their entire lives to buy liabilities, a bigger house, a nicer car, and then they wonder why they're not building wealth. Whereas wealthy people, they focus on acquiring assets, things that generate income, things that grow in value, things that work for them while they're sleeping. So before you buy something, ask yourself, is this putting money in my pocket or is it taking money out? If it's taking money out, then you better have a really good reason because every pound spent on liabilities is a pound that's not building assets. So shift your focus. Build assets first, buy liabilities only when your assets can actually pay for them. Concept number 4 is good debt versus bad debt because not all debt is bad. Let me say that again. Not all debt is bad. But most people don't understand the difference between good debt and bad debt. Bad debt is borrowing money to buy things that lose value or or don't generate income. So this links back to the asset versus liabilities. So credit card debt to buy clothes, meals out, holidays, that is bad. You're paying 20% interest on things that are worth nothing a year later. Car loans for a brand new car that depreciates 20% the moment you drive it off the car dealership, that is bad. Payday loans at extortionate rates, that is really, really bad debt. Whereas good debt is borrowing money to buy assets that will either increase in value or generate income. So, for example, a mortgage on a property that appreciates or generates rental income. That can be a good debt if managed properly. A student loan for a degree that significantly increases your earning potential. That can be a good debt if the return on investment is there. However, given the current economic situation and how high it is to pay for university, this one can be debatable. Another one, a business loan to start or grow a profitable business can be good debt. But here's the key question. Will this debt help me to build wealth or would it drain my wealth? If you're borrowing to consume, then that's bad. If you're borrowing to invest in something that will pay you back more than the cost of the loan, then that's good. And once you understand this, you can move to the next level of thinking, which is assessing risk. Using debt to invest and grow a business is called leveraging, which I'll explain in a future video. So most people drown in bad debt and they avoid good debt. They finance lifestyles they can't afford and refuse to take on a strategic debt that will grow their wealth. So understand the difference. Use good debt wisely and avoid bad debt at all costs. So concept number 5 is the emergency fund. I'm pretty sure everyone's heard this one before. An emergency fund is your financial safety net. And if you don't have one, you're one unexpected expense away from financial disaster. Here's the reality. Life happens and things are not under your control. Your car can break down, you might lose your job, you might have a medical emergency, your boiler dies in the middle of winter, and now you need to replace it. If you don't have cash set aside, you're forced to go into debt because you need to replace this necessity. And now that emergency has become a long term financial problem. It's a liability, it's a bad debt. You see how everything's linked together? So, an emergency fund is 3 to 6 months worth of essential expenses rent, bills, food, transport, kept in an easily accessible account. So, it's liquid, you can easily take it out. It's not invested, it's not locked away, and I'll be honest with you, I learned this the hard way because I started investing at 18. I was excited. I put money into the market. I watched it grow. Then at 19, I needed cash. I didn't have an emergency fund, so I withdrew the money from my investments. Not only did I lose out on future growth from my investment, but I also withdrew the money in losses because I pulled out at the wrong time. I was forced to sell when I should have been holding. However, by 20, I was able to rebuild, but this time I did it properly. I built my emergency fund first, then I started investing again. And the lesson is that your emergency fund comes before investing, before anything else. And it also gives you peace of mind when you're investing because you don't need to worry about having to withdraw to cover any expenses. So here's how to build one. Start small. Even £500 is better than nothing. Aim for £1,000 as your first milestone, then build towards your 3 months of expenses, then six. You can automate it so you can set up a direct debit the day after payday, £50, £100, whatever you can afford. Make it non negotiable. And you can keep it separate. Don't keep your emergency fund in your main account where you'll be tempted to spend it every single time you see it. A separate savings account, perhaps with a different banking provider. Out of sight, out of mind. And once it's there, leave it alone. It's not holiday money. This is not, I really want that new thing money, maybe an iPad, a laptop, clothes. This is just my life just fell apart and I need a cushion money. And you should only use it for that. So build your emergency fund, protect yourself because the best financial decision you can make, because the best financial decision you can make is to never be desperate. So why does this actually matter? This is what most people don't realize. Banks use all these concepts. Businesses, they use all these concepts as well. Investors, they use it. Every financial institution you interact with, your bank, your credit card, your mortgage lender, they operate based on these principles. Compound interest, that's how banks make money off your debt and how investment firms grow your portfolio. Inflation, banks and businesses factor this into every decision. Pricing, wages, assets versus liability. Every successful business knows the difference. That's how they build value. That's why they have a balance sheet. They need to have more assets than liabilities in the balance sheet. Good debt versus bad debt. Corporations leverage good debt to expand, to grow, and they avoid bad debt like it's poison. Emergency funds, businesses, they call this cash reserves or capital funding. And it's how they survive downturns where they're not selling as much as they did the year before. These ain't just personal finance tips. They're the fundamental principles that run the entire financial system. And if you don't understand them, you're operating at a disadvantage every single day. Here's your action step for this week. Pick one concept, master it, and apply it. Calculate how much compound interest you could earn over 10 years. Check if your savings are beating inflation. Identify one liability that you can cut out. Make a plan to pay off bad debt or set up automatic transfers to start your emergency fund. Just start. One concept, one action this week. And if this video helps you, consider subscribing. I share clarity driven content like this every week. Lessons on discipline, finance, long term thinking, and self development. I will see you in the next one.